Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we have the winners and losers from 2019 NBA Free Agency Day 1, bro. It was an insane day, man. Like, my heart, I was hyperventilating, just like, shit was dropping, bro. I was freaking out there, man. I was like the Matrix dodging all these Woj bombs and everything. Just shit was going down. Shit was going down, man. I was just like, I was so on edge. Before this video, guys, like I said, the biggest winners and losers. This video by Sporting, logically linked to his channel in the description below. We're going to see what this man has to say about the winners and losers. Of course, I'm going to give you guys my opinions on the way. So here we go, baby. Also, if you guys do me a quick favor and drop a like on this video, would be greatly appreciated. Here we go.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and after one of, if not the craziest free agency periods, or at least start to free agency
one of the
that I
craziest
can
I've
remember,
seen.
I thought now would be a good time to give my...
I think a big part of it, too, was that it started at 6 p.m. Eastern Time instead of waiting until midnight, because like everybody was like waiting for it, you know what I'm saying?
winners and losers of the first day of free agency. Now, to be clear, this covers just like the first 6 or so hours and the initial deals that were agreed to then. So from about 6 o'clock Eastern Time to midnight Eastern Time, which is the time zone that I live in. So if you don't see something on here that you expected to, like maybe the D'Angelo Russell sign and trade to the Warriors, that's only because that didn't technically occur on the first day, at least my time. And I've got a video coming out later today about all...
I think it happened at like 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. I think that's the tweet I saw, but that's so late, you know what I'm saying? So it's understandable.
The sign and trade craziness as well, and how that could completely change the way we look at free agency moving forward. But I'm just going to talk about day one, winners and losers, and let's just go ahead and get right into it because there's a ton to talk about here. So the first one's pretty obvious. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the Brooklyn Nets have to be in this video. They have to be considered a huge winner because all of the momentum about Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan all ending up in Brooklyn ended up being true. And I never really, as a Nets fan, allowed myself to get my expectations up, get my hopes up that this could
he's a Nets fan. You got to be feeling really happy then. Okay.
Actually happen until I saw it. And I still really can't believe it. It's still a really surreal feeling to know that my team has those 3 guys signed under contract for the next 4 years. But they have to be considered big winners to be able to do that, not only as a team in Brooklyn, as supposedly the second team in New York, signing the first 2 guys, specifically KD and Kyrie, kind of away from the Knicks, where for a lot of the season, a lot of people thought that that was where they would end up if they ended up playing together. They did a lot of things right here. Now, I'm going to be coming out with a video later this week talking about some concerns that I have, because there's definitely a possibility that the Kyrie thing ends up being a little bit weird, and we don't really know how KD is going to come back from his Achilles.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
The DeAndre Jordan contract if you want to. But regardless, in 2020, when Kevin Durant comes back.
To add on to that, assuming they keep Jarrett Allen, Jarrett Allen becomes, continues to develop, it's a huge time W, because my only big time concern is that, for one, we don't know Kyrie's leadership. Well, we do know Kyrie's leadership skills. There's kind of lack of. Like this man said, Durant, we don't know what he's going to be like when he's back. But also, next season, Durant's not playing. DeAndre Jordan is an athletic-based center who, by the time Durant's back, is going to be like 33, so we don't really know how he's going to regress. So we might not really see the full potential of all these guys playing together. I don't want to see it from their prime, because a lot of, like Durant, you can probably say, due to that injury, is not going to be in his prime anymore. Of course, DeAndre Jordan isn't. So that's really my only big-time concern. But, the bench is nice. Regardless, even just getting Kyrie Irving is like a huge time W for Brooklyn.
The Nets, at least preseason, are going to be considered championship contenders, and even next year without KD, they're still going to be really good, so they have to be considered winners. Next up now, as we go to the negative side, the first loser of the video is the Phoenix Suns. And this is a team that's making a little bit too much of a habit of appearing in the losers section of videos like this. There's only one reason for this, and that's pre-draft. The Suns made headlines by trading away TJ Warren, who's a good young wing, came off of a good season statistically, did have some issues with injuries, but still had a good season, was on a relatively fair deal, and they decided to just give him away to Indiana, plus a second-round pick for nothing in exchange, and to just dump his salary. And the mindset was, okay, well, they're getting rid of salary so they can go and get somebody in free agency, probably going to be a point guard, which is something that they've needed for a while. D'Angelo Russell was a name thrown around. But instead, they traded away TJ Warren for nothing to create cap space to sign Ricky Rubio to a contract worth $17 million a year.
That is quite a bit,
over 3 years. That's why they traded TJ Warren, was to get Ricky Rubio at a contract that he's not worth, in my opinion. And I understand that it's the Suns, right? Like, they were going to have to overpay to get a player to want to play for them. They needed a point guard badly. Rubio is at least going to be a good facilitator for them and maybe make some jump shots occasionally off the ball, be a good veteran presence for them. But this doesn't make them a playoff team. I
will say, when it comes to Rubio, though, if I remember correctly, he is like one of the better, like from like a defensive standpoint, I think Rubio's pretty solid as far as I remember. I mean, he was on the Utah Jazz. They were the best defensive team in the NBA last season. I know as far as like stealing the basketball, he's great with that. If he can knock down his mid-range shot, his three-point shots, and I do think he complements Devin Booker very nicely, because D-Book's not really a great defensive guard. So I think Rubio helps out with that department. But not only that, just as somebody that can get the ball to DeAndre Ayton, because sometimes that was kind of the knockoff on Devin Booker, is that he didn't utilize Ayton enough. So I do think Ayton is going to really relish from this signing right here. Is it a bit of an overpay? Yes. But at the same time, they got Cam Johnson now. Josh Jacks, I don't really know what's going on with Tim Kelly Oubre. I don't think he's been announced yet. So, being able to have the money to get Ricky Rubio, yes, they would probably prefer like a D'Lo or somebody like that. But like he was saying, man, TJ Warren was injured last season, so this does kind of help to like free up the front court a bit. I think TJ was on a multi-year contract, so it does free up cap space for other seasons anyway. So, I mean, yeah, it's not like the sexiest of pickups, but I think it's fine. It's fine.
Don't have any other cap space or flexibility to really do anything after this or moving forward. And so this is going to be their team. And it just doesn't make sense to me that they traded away a very useful player like TJ Warren on a fair deal to get a player that, yes, is at a position of need in Rubio, but probably isn't as good of a player as Warren is at their respective positions.
I just don't think they need
and is being paid more, and he's on a worse contract. So I don't really understand that mindset,
and
they just have to be considered losers, in my opinion. Next up now, my second winner has to be the Utah Jazz. And I'll admit that this has a little bit to do with just their offseason as a whole as well, because the addition of Mike Conley via trade last week is a huge deal. But it also kind of positioned them to sign Bojan Bogdanovic to a 4-year, $73 million deal in free agency.
So is Bojan, is he going to play small forward and Joe Ingles goes to power forward? Or does Bojan play power forward, or does Joe Ingles come off the bench? I guess Joe Ingles probably off the bench now, right? Which I don't know how I feel about that. Unless they think they can go with both those guys in the starting lineups. That would be interesting. I do like Ed Davis, one of the best rebounding big guys in the NBA.
Once it officially started yesterday. And this is a really, really big deal, because I expressed some concerns initially with the Conley trade that I didn't really know where the Jazz were going to go from here, because they needed someone to play the 4 spot. It didn't really become all that clear what they were going to do with Derek Favors until free agency actually started. I questioned some of their depth, but if you just go through the whole, this is their starting 5 unit now that everybody does after trades and free agency, the Jazz have an outstanding one, and one that should make them contenders in the West. Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, now Bogdanovic, and Rudy Gobert is an incredibly balanced lineup that gives them awesome floor spacing and playmaking. Could be some question marks defensively, but Gobert can make up for a lot of mistakes on.
I think defensively they'll probably be fine. I mean, like I said, they were one of the best they were the best, like, rating-wise defensive team last season, I believe. So, Joe Ingles is going to be able to bring it defensively. Mike Conley, he's a great defensive point guard, I will say. I guess I will say the concern is the 4 spot. If Bogdanovic ends up playing that, then yes, that could be some issues. But he's like 6'8", so I mean, he's got like an NBA body at least
on that end at the rim. And it's just an incredibly smart move in a series of them over the last couple of years for the Utah Jazz. And this is pretty good value for Bogdanovic when you consider what players like Chris Middleton were signing for. This is a good deal for
like
them. Now, they do still have some depth issues. They're still going to have to rely on guys like Dante Exum, Raul Neto, Royce O'Neal off the bench to really give them some more depth. But they should be able to sign at least a couple of usable guys with minimum contracts, or maybe some buyout players mid-season as well. So in combination with everything they've done in the offseason and then leading up to free agency and being able to get Bogdanovic, and then obviously they're going to lose Derek Favors for that. But the combination of all those things makes the Utah Jazz a definite winner in free agency for me. My second loser now is one that might be either a bit of a surprise to some people, or maybe just a team that you're not thinking a ton about with everything that happened yesterday. But it's the Orlando Magic. And I understand that they were kind of in a tough spot going into free agency because they had 2 guys that they knew that a lot of teams were going to be interested in, and they were going to have to pay pretty well to be able to keep. And those were Nikola Vucevic and Terrence Ross. So they ended up bringing back both of those guys, as well as Al-Farouq Aminu. But that's a lot of money just to add Aminu to a group that was a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference last year. And even more than that, just this year right now, without making any other moves, The Orlando Magic are almost a luxury tax team. They're about $1 million off the luxury tax and will have, as of right now, one of the highest payroll numbers in the league next year. Again, just to bring back a roster that won, however many games last year.
They got Markelle Fultz now, though, so we don't know what he's going to be like. They got to keep their all-star center on a pretty friendly contract. I will say, all things considered, 4 years, $100 million. Terrence Ross, one of the best 6 men in the NBA. Al-Farouq Aminu. I mean, I forgot who the rookie was they drafted. I know he's like a power forward, though, so I think he's got a torn ACL, so Aminu should be good for, decent time there. Heard possibilities of an Aaron Gordon trade. Don't know if that's going to happen, but regardless, they do have Mo Bamba, who they probably end up trading now, and, that him being Mo Bamba and being a top pick in the draft, probably could get a pretty decent player back for him. So I'm happy they kept Vucevic because, we know Vucevic on the Magic works. We don't know if Vucevic anywhere else would have worked, and I think, like I said, man, they got him for a pretty good deal.
Got a 7th seed, and then you add Al-Farouq Aminu to that. And again, like I said, I get it. They had some tough decisions to make. They wanted to bring back Vucevic and Ross. They knew people were going to pay high dollar for them, and so they kind of had, if they wanted to keep those guys, they had to throw big numbers at them. But it just kind of compounds some of their issues. Like now they have their highest paid and best player at the same position as their most high potential player, those being Vucevic and Bamba, which means that a trade is probably coming for one of those guys at some point during their current contracts. That's an issue. The Ross thing makes sense as a guy that can definitely shoot and provide them offense. That's something that they need. But again, lots of money for him. And then Aminu, same thing kind of as the Suns. They knew they would have to overpay a little bit to get guys like that to sign with them. And it's just, I always get a little bit nervous when you're paying this much money in a relatively smaller market for a team that's not a championship contender. Like they're going to have a top 10 payroll in the league next year for a team that's probably best case scenario, like a 6 or 7 seed in the East. So like I understand why they had to make the moves that they did, but they are still considered a loser in my mind just because of how much money they had to give to those players. Next up now, my third winner is going to be actually a team that didn't make a ton of moves yesterday, but they made one really important one. And that's the New Orleans Pelicans. And as of right now, as of the recording of this video, through day one, the only move that the Pelicans made in free agency was bringing in JJ Redick on a 2-year, $26.5 million deal. And it made sense all around. Like the Pelicans were clearly in the market for a veteran player to give them just another adult in the room along with Drew Holiday to go along with all of these other young guys that they now have with Zion and the pieces that they got in the Lakers.
I could low-key see Drew Holiday being traded now. I'm just saying I could see it happening. I don't know what for exactly, but just going to put that out there.
Trade. So it makes sense for them, and this is actually really good value for JJ Redick. Like this is a guy that's made almost $20 million a season the last 2 years, and to get him at 13.5 over a 2-year span, even though he's getting up there in age, is really important for them. Obviously, it provides them great spacing, but just off the court as well, showing these guys how to be professionals. It's just an all-around good move for them in a series of really good moves this offseason for the Pelicans, because it doesn't really seem like they're interested in like a full-on rebuild. They understand that they have a ton of Lakers picks. They have all these young players. They have Zion. They have Drew Holiday. Now they have JJ Redick. Like they can be good right away if they want to and still have the flexibility in the future to maybe make a move for a star via trade or just continue to stockpile good young players in the draft. So this move made sense all around for them, on the court, off the court. It was a great move for them to be able to get Redick at the price that they did, which definitely makes them a winner.
Re-sign Anthony Davis.
And last up now, the third loser, and it has to be the New York Knicks. And while I was live streaming,
they're literally stealing every single role player, bro. Every single guy. The Lakers were like, the Knicks are like, yo, Lakers, you're going to steal Anthony Davis from us? Well, guess what? We're going to take every single role player, so you're going to be playing a damn 70-year-old Vince Carter at your starting spot.
I mean, everything during free agency, initially, like the first 2 or 3 hours of free agency, I tried very hard to just keep a positive vibe, right? Like I didn't want to crush too many teams. I didn't want to call them out for making bad moves because there was so much going on, and a lot of it was positive, and that's what I wanted to focus on. But the Knicks made it so difficult not to criticize them for what they were doing. And there's the obvious stuff, like the fact that they missed out on signing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving this offseason. And not only that, but they lost out on them to Brooklyn of all teams. But it's not just about the guys that they didn't sign. It's about the guys that they chose to instead. Because this is what we were told wouldn't happen. We were told that if the Knicks didn't get any of the big max level guys, they weren't just going to throw money at other players to make up for it. And then they went and turned around and threw 130.
In all fairness, it's not super long contracts, and they'll have them for this season. And next free agency, I hear, is not very strong. So, they'll be good to go for the next big free agent, period. So,
$5 million total.
I heard next year's pretty
at
trash
4 different players And all of them are forwards. It's Taj Gibson, Bobby Portis, Julius Randle, and Reggie Bullock. $135 million between those 4 forwards, and none of them are really that much of a perimeter player with the exception of Reggie Bullock, and I wouldn't call him a guard. And it's just a really strange circumstance, and it's clear that they have some kind of plan here because all of these deals are going to run out in 2 years. Randle's is actually a 3-year deal, but it's a team option for the 3rd year. So all of these things can be out in 2021, so maybe they're targeting more free agents then. I don't know.
I think that's the move.
And there was the report coming out that they didn't offer KD the full max. That could end up being the right decision. But it's just... It's crazy to me that they do this again. Like, we have been told that this was not going to happen, that they have learned their lesson, that they're not just going to throw money at players just to make up for missing out on the max guy.
At least there ain't no joking, no 4-year, $70 million, whatever ridiculous contract he got. We can praise him for that at least.
And instead, I mean, I get kind of what they're trying to do. Like, they're getting 2 younger forwards in Randle and Portis. Not really sure how they play together, really. I don't really know how they fit together if they're going to play at the same time, but they're at least good, solid young players that could turn into something on okay deals. I'm questioning the money value on the Randle deal, but we'll see what happens, and they certainly had the money to spend. And then they wanted 2 veteran guys like Gibson and Bullock to just, again, kind of like the Pelicans thing, have some adults in the room. But it just doesn't make sense. Like, on top of the fact that they traded away Kristaps Porzingis to create 2 max cap space slots, and then the fact they didn't get to use them on KD or Kyrie or Jimmy Butler or Kawhi or any of these guys.
I think they just
and then
lost
they threw $130+ million at these 4 players. It just doesn't make sense. And kind of going into the night, you could kind of feel that the Knicks were going to be losers because they weren't going to get KD or Kyrie. But the fact that they made it that much worse by signing these other players to deals that just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not really going to help them that much is definitely questionable, even if you think that there is some potential there for players like Portis and Randle to be good for them in the long term. But they have to be considered the 3rd loser. And there you have it. That is going to be the end of the first of today's videos. Like I said, I'll have...
Yeah, I will say straight. I think he summarized it up pretty good. I don't really have any like huge disagreements outside. I think Rick Rubio will be decent for the Phoenix Suns. I think he'll help out in some spaces that they've been lacking for the past few seasons. But yeah, New York Knicks, they spent their money. They spent their money in the way they chose to, I guess. But yeah, man. Link to Sporting Logically's channel in the description below, guys. I think this guy's very knowledgeable. One of the definitely the most knowledgeable NBA guys on YouTube. So thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to drop that like, subscribe if you're new to my channel, and peace out, my friends.